Jesus saves his disciples from the storm. Dear brothers and sisters, today we reflect on one of the most powerful and profound stories from the Bible, a story where Jesus demonstrates his authority over nature. It is a story of peace amidst chaos, trust in the face of fear, and divine intervention in the midst of crisis. This event is recorded in Matthew 8:23-27, Mark 4:35-41, and Luke 8:22-25. The scene takes place on a boat as Jesus and his disciples cross a lake. As they set sail, the water is calm, the sky is peaceful, and everything appears normal. But suddenly, a fierce storm arises. The wind howls, the waves crash violently against the boat, and water begins to flood in. The disciples, many of whom are experienced fishermen, have faced storms before, but this one is unlike any they have ever seen. It is beyond their control. Fear grips their hearts. Panic sets in. They struggle to keep the boat afloat, but the storm rages on. The situation seems hopeless. Yet in the midst of this terrifying chaos, there is one striking detail. Jesus is asleep. Can you picture it? The disciples are battling the storm, overwhelmed by fear, while Jesus, fully aware of what is happening, remains at peace. He is resting in the stern of the boat. This moment is powerful. It is not that Jesus is unaware or indifferent. Rather, it shows his absolute trust in the Father's will. It reveals the divine peace that only he possesses. But for the disciples, fear overtakes them. Their lives are at risk, and they cry out in desperation, "Lord, save us! We are perishing." These words reflect their helplessness, their lack of control, and their desperate need for Jesus. They have done all they can, but it is not enough. They need him. And this is where we find our first great lesson. Storms will come in life, both literal and spiritual. We all face moments of uncertainty, hardship, and fear. It may be a personal crisis, a health struggle, a financial burden, or an overwhelming season of difficulty. Just as the disciples found themselves in a storm they could not control, we too encounter challenges beyond our power. And like them, we may cry out, "Lord, save us." But here is the truth we must hold on to. Jesus is with us, even in the storm. His presence alone is our peace, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. When the disciples woke Jesus, they were overcome with panic and fear. Yet, in contrast to their distress, Jesus remained calm. He stood up, rebuked the wind and the waves, and commanded, "Peace, be still." Instantly, the storm ceased. The winds died down, and the sea became completely calm. Imagine that moment. Just seconds before, the storm had seemed unstoppable, a violent force of nature that threatened their very lives. The waves that had been crashing against the boat, threatening to capsize it, were now still. The deafening wind that had howled through the night was now silent. With a single word, Jesus had commanded the forces of nature, and they obeyed him. This moment reveals a profound truth. Jesus has authority over all things. He not only holds power over the wind and the sea, but he also reigns over the storms in our lives. No matter what difficulties, struggles, or trials we face, we must never forget this unshakable truth. Jesus is still in control. No storm is too great for him to calm. However, there is another lesson we must not overlook. Jesus does not always calm the storm immediately. Sometimes he allows the storm to persist because there is something greater he wants to teach us. The disciples needed to experience fear and helplessness before they could fully understand Jesus' power. Likewise, we sometimes go through trials so that our faith can be strengthened. Difficult moments teach us to rely on him completely. The real question is not whether we will face storms in life. We will. The question is how we will respond. Will we give in to panic and fear like the disciples? Or will we trust in Jesus, knowing that no matter how fierce the storm may seem, He is always in control? After calming the storm, Jesus turned to His disciples and asked, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" This question was not just for them. It challenges us even today. The disciples had walked with Jesus. They had witnessed His miracles, heard His teachings, and seen His power firsthand. Yet when faced with danger, their faith wavered. In that moment, fear overtook their trust in Him. We must ask ourselves, how often do we doubt when storms arise in our own lives? How often do we allow fear to overshadow our faith? Jesus was not simply rebuking their fear. He was calling them to deeper trust. Fear and faith cannot coexist. When fear takes control, it reveals that we are not fully trusting in Jesus. But when we place our complete trust in Him, fear loses its grip on us. This is the challenge for us today. How do we respond when life's storms come? Do we panic, doubting God's presence? Do we question His care for us? Or do we stand firm in faith, believing that Jesus is still in control even when we cannot see the outcome? The disciples, in awe of what they had just witnessed, turned to one another and asked, "Who is this that even the wind and the sea obey Him?" This question is the heart of our faith. Who is Jesus to you? Is He merely a great teacher, a historical figure, or is He the Son of God, the one who has power over all things? How we answer that question shapes not only our faith, but also how we face the storms of life.